Jing. Mom, I have the ability to predict and know what will happen in the next 3 days. Mother. This story is good, you can continue to make it up. Jing. Old man, there really is a strong enemy attacking. I have died several times. Grandfather. Even if the sky falls, you can't leave the mansion. Be honest and stay grounded. Jing. Old man, did you hide an identity token under the altar in the temple? Grandfather. Even the ancestral hall dares to be raided, banned for another 6 months. Jing. It was clearly you who told me last time. In ancient times, there were 2 tribes in heaven and earth. Humans and gods. The 2 ethnic groups have similar appearances, but their situations are completely different. The divine race is born sacred, while the slave race is like a pig or dog. The descendants and ancestors learn from all things in heaven and earth, strengthen themselves, and rise up in rebellion. After tens of thousands of years, the divine race retreated and fled to the underworld. Its successors caused a drastic change in heaven and earth, and the ancestors of the human race suffered heavy casualties, making it difficult to achieve full success. After countless years, the world has undergone changes, and the scattered divine races that fled back then have integrated into the human race over time. People in this world only know about people, but not about gods. The story begins with the Hong Mansion dandy, who is of mixed race between humans and gods. Keywords of the novel. Reincarnation of the Great Redemption Master without pop-ups. Download the complete set of Reincarnation of the Great Redemption Master TXT, and read the latest chapters of Reincarnation of the Great Redemption Master. Chapter 1. Time Chaos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Time Chaos. Bang, what kind of person? Various chaotic sounds came faintly, colliding, asking questions, groaning, and so on. Sure. I want you to die. Motherly Surong's mournful roar echoed in her ears like thunder. At the moment when Jing was awakened, he only felt a white light in his eyes and seemed to hear the sound of broken windows. After the clear morning before his eyes, he realized that the half-bed blanket covering his body had fallen to the ground, and the sky outside had also become hazy. The chirping of birds, the crowing of roosters, the moaning of pet meatballs, the slight movements made by servants deliberately making light movements while cleaning, and the faint noise coming from North Street create a peaceful atmosphere. It turned out to be a nightmare. Jing, who was a bit confused, turned his head to look at the carving on the table. Kai Mao alternates, waking up too early. Hiss, as he rubbed his ears. He only felt that the mother's loud drinking in his nightmare was too real, and his eardrums would ache faintly. Could it be that the shadow left by my grandfather's footban a few days ago has not completely dissipated, which is why I had a headless and inexplicable nightmare? At night, we must ask Brother Pang Chong and Brother Pang Su to invite him to the Chui Tower to suppress the shock. Well, we still need to go to the mountain first and get some ruthless goods to kill those 2 brothers. Last night, he said he was trying to apologize by showcasing his long-toothed leopard in the Chui building, but he kept showing off to those little girls without any sincerity. He didn't want to return this dish, which was not a good idea. Thinking that the hunting gear was still on Sanji's side, Jing immediately got out of bed. After washing up, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. A graceful young man of 17 or 18 years old, with flying sword eyebrows, agile eyes, a straight nose and thin lips. There is a rare and complex pattern above the eyebrow center, although it is hardly visible, it creates a desire to see it clearly, adding a touch of mystery. Jing raised his eyebrows. It was true that he didn't rely solely on the reputation of his family to attract the young ladies who leaned against the Tsuelo. Unfortunately, the old man had already imposed strict regulations that he must maintain his virginity before changing his bloodline. Even his mother, who had always spoiled him, did not stand on his side. But when he thought of the pain when opening his orifice, he couldn't help but shiver. It felt like a drill bit drilling a hole in his body, and he was in excruciating pain today. Although others may also experience pain when they open their minds, no one would experience such pain. Perhaps his talent is too good to even please heaven. Good morning, young master. Shunzi, who was cleaning up the snow in the courtyard, quickly stopped his movements when he saw Hong Jing, feeling extremely surprised in his heart. The young master used to be unable to get out of bed without sleeping until the third pole of the day. It's really rare for him to wake up early today. Did it snow again last night? Hong Jing asked. After several consecutive days of snowfall, it has cleared up in the past 2 days. Unexpectedly, it snowed again last night. Shunzi bowed and replied, Young master, I don't know. Yesterday, in the latter half of the night, it snowed quite heavily. Hong Jing didn't take it to heart either, just worried about whether he could smoothly enter the mountain today. After waving his hand to indicate that Shunzi was busy, he stepped out of the small courtyard door. As one of the 3 major families in Qingyuan City, the Hong family's mansion covers an extremely wide area, with the main entrance facing East Street. The entire mansion is divided into 6 areas. The front courtyard, the middle courtyard, the east and west courtyards, the main courtyard, and the northernmost backyard. Hongjing is located in the west courtyard on the west side of the courtyard, just 1 street away from Qingyuan City North Street. It is only a few tens of steps from the west gate to enter North Street. Although it is a western courtyard, it is also extremely spacious. In addition to the main courtyard where my parents live, there are several small courtyards, a side garden, and a relatively small training ground. When Hong Jing was 10 years old, he was assigned to his own small courtyard in the west courtyard, next to his sister's room. Leaving the courtyard door, I bumped into my sister Hong Xiu'er, who was running a pet dog. Xiu'er is now 12 years old, and there is also a tattoo on her forehead that is the same style as Hong Jing. It looks quiet and elegant, but when she opens her mouth, it will break everyone's first impression of her. Brother. Did you wake up so early today? Did you wet the bed? Or did you want to sneak out early? The tone and voice carried a hint of iron residue, not at all like the soft talk of other girls, giving people a feeling of being able to pull out willows despite appearing weak and indifferent. Hong Jing rolled his eyes inwardly. He had already lifted the ban, so he still needed to secretly go out. Such a lovely little sister, it's a pity she has a mouth. She raised her hand and pressed Hong Xiu'er's forehead, pushing her away as she spoke and walked out with a step up. Push my head again, believe it or not, will I hammer you to death next year. From behind came Xiu'er's threatening expression. Wong Wong Wong, the short-legged little dog also shouted along. Wu Hongjing turned around and stared at the dog guy until he stopped speaking. Let you call it meatball, sooner or later I'll stew you. He didn't pay any attention to the threat he posed to his younger sister. As a third-level enlightenment practitioner, he not only practiced Xuanjia martial arts, but also opened several more acupoints. Coupled with the physical advantage brought by age, who is afraid of who? This sister can bully for at least 2 more years. Hey! Mom said she'll come find you later. Xiu'er's voice rang out again. I understand, Hong Jingtu waved his hand without looking back, probably nagging him to work hard to cultivate again. He didn't take this matter to heart and was planning to go to the third brother in the east courtyard to get his hunting gear and enter the mountain. Good morning, fourth young master. Good morning, fourth young master. Along the way, passing through corridors and alleys, leaving the west courtyard, passing through the atrium, and arriving at the east courtyard, there are occasional servants who stop their work and salute while clearing the snow at night. Mr. Hong has 3 sons under his command, who share their houses but not their families. Therefore, the younger generations of the third generation are all grouped together to prioritize their elders and children, only dividing them into males and females. The third generation of the Sanfang family only had 2 siblings, Hong Jing and Hong Xiu'er. In terms of the ranking of the third generation of the Hong family, Hong Jing was the fourth among the boys and Hong Xiu'er was the fifth among the girls. So except for the servants of the West Court calling them young master and miss, the servants of all other courtyards are referred to as fourth young master and fifth miss. Hong Jing nodded or waved his hand in response to the servants' greetings. His demeanor has been accustomed to by the servants in the mansion for many years. Apart from not loving cultivation, this young master is not the kind of person who bullies or invites people to curse in secret. He is also somewhat stubborn and is scolded by the old master every 3 to 5 days. Sucking in the cold air brought by the heavy snow, Hong Jing arrived at his third brother Hong Min's small courtyard. The layout of the eastern and western courtyards is the same. Hong Min is the second son of the second family and ranks third among the third generation of male servants in the Hong mansion, so Hong Jing is known as the third brother. His elder brother Hong Chen is the eldest son of the third generation and is considered his elder brother. Hong Jing's youngest brother Hong Min is only 1 year old, and the two are the closest. Upon entering the courtyard, Hong Min was practicing martial arts with a sword, and Hong Jing was not polite either. He raised his hand and greeted him before heading straight into the west wing. His hunting gear was dug out by a meatball the day before yesterday and then transferred here. However, he searched all over the western wing and couldn't find any hunting gear. This is nothing, go to Xiu'er's place to coax some money, and you can buy another pile at any time. The problem is that the hunting gear he transferred at that time was only for the purpose of concealing people's ears, and the few invisible treasures hidden inside were the key. Can this thing be lost? Can't it be third brother who embezzled it? Thinking of this, Hong Jing immediately turned around and left the room. Third brother. Without bothering to interrupt Hong Min's practice, Hong Jing walked directly to Hong Min with a knife light. Where did you exchange those things for me? Hong Min glared at the reckless guy, frowned and withdrew his knife. What is it? After seeing Hong Jing just now, he was still speculating whether this guy came early in the morning to urge him to plead with the old man, but he didn't expect to ask something inexplicably. Hong Jing paused before speaking, said the bows, arrows, and knives I left in your courtyard the day before yesterday. Following closely, he added, there are still a few secret books. What bow and arrow? What secret script? What are you talking about? Hong Min was a bit confused. Hong Jing thought he was pretending to be embezzling his treasure, and was a bit anxious. Brother, let's forget about bows and arrows. I finally got those few secret books from Pang Chong last month, and it said they were still from Dian's side. Don't go too far. The secret script of Cousin Chong. Hong Min reacted and touched his chin, giving Hong Jing a sideways glance. Obscene wild book. I knew it was you who hid it, brother, third brother. Is it arranged by my younger brother to lean against the Tsuelo at night? Hong Jing saw Hong Min admit and planned to invite him to have a drink to redeem those precious books. Hong Min said angrily, do you still want to go to Itsue Tower? You were only banned by the old man yesterday. How dare you openly leave the mansion today? This statement seemed to make Hong Jing a bit stunned, and he couldn't help but ask, did the old man order me to be banned again yesterday? He didn't do anything yesterday, did he? A few days ago, after the old man from Pang Mansion came over, he was inexplicably banned for 3 days. He could only leave the mansion yesterday. I just went out for a drink and was banned again. You can't escape even by pretending to be foolish. Hong Min patted Hong Jing's shoulder, the old man was angry with my grandfather yesterday. You just stay at home for a few days honestly, and in a few days, I'll go plead with you. Hong Jing didn't listen to the rest of the conversation at all, and even forgot about the few precious books for the time being. He only remembered the sentence, the old man was angry with my grandfather yesterday. Sangu Hong Min's mother is a daughter of the Pang family, isn't his grandfather the old man of the Pang family? Pang family old thief. Do you need to pit me like this? Before, your grandson had just changed blood, so you came to play tricks on me. It took me a day to relax, and then you came again. Jing was extremely angry. No wonder Xuan said he wanted to sneak out just now, but he was also banned by the old man. I secretly planned to find an opportunity to retaliate against the two brothers Pang Chang and Pang Su in the future. Can't withstand the old, can't bully the young. Turning to the thought of the treasure that my third brother had embezzled, he said, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, I often get scolded, but you have to return my secret books to me." Hong Min laughed angrily and said, "I really didn't know about your junk. Even before you came over today, I didn't know that you even collected these things. How could you possibly not know?" Jing interrupted the conversation. "The day before yesterday, the day after I was grounded, didn't I bring some bows, arrows, and knives over? You moved into your west wing with me, how could you not know?" Speaking, he also raised his finger to the west wing next to him. "The day before yesterday. Are you dizzy? How did you get your feet banned the day before yesterday? When did I move things with you? Are you teasing me?" Jing stared incredulously and said, "After Pang Guan's dog entered the realm of blood exchange, the old thief of the Pang family rushed to the mansion to show off. Our old man poured his anger on my head, or did you help me win the favor after breaking through 2 days ago?" Hong Min didn't care about his unscrupulous remarks and glanced at him. "Isn't that what happened yesterday? I told you last night that I wanted to break through in the next 2 days. What's wrong? I made your third brother happy early in the morning. Yesterday." Jing finally realized something was wrong and swallowed. "Brother, what day is it today?" "What day?" "The first day you were banned." Hong Min chuckled and cursed angrily. "No, what day is it today?" "On the 6th day of the 11th month." Hong Min turned around and walked towards the main house, intending to freshen up. The 6th day of junior high school. Jing couldn't believe it. Pang Laozi came to his mansion on the 5th day of the Lunar New Year. That night, he was banned by his grandfather. It was not until the afternoon of the 8th day that his third brother broke through the blood exchange realm and begged his grandfather for mercy that he was able to lift the ban. Then the Pang brothers apologized for him yesterday at the Itsue building, and today should be the 10th day of the Lunar New Year. Why is it only 6th grade, newcomers new books, seeking collection, seeking investment, seeking various tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Foresight of the Future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Foresight of the Future. Yes, on the 6th day of junior high. On the 6th day of the 11th month in the 17th year of the Qianyuan reign. Jing walked out of the east courtyard in a daze, and Hong Min's elusive voice echoed in his ear like a magical sound. "Good morning, fourth young master." The sound of servants bowing woke up Jing. "What day is it today?" Jing blurted out. "Fourth young master, today is the 6th day of November." The servant didn't pay much attention. After all, the fourth young master in front of me often doesn't adjust, and it's normal to not remember the day. Jing waved his hand and walked towards the west courtyard. "It should be the 10th day of junior high school, why is it the 6th day again? How did what he remembered happen? If I remember correctly, my mother will wake him up in his small courtyard this morning, and then nag him for a long time, urging him to work hard to cultivate. In the afternoon, my younger sister Xuan will open her orifices. Because of this, his mother scolded him again during dinner and asked Xuan to supervise his cultivation tomorrow. Then tomorrow, when he was preparing to endure the pain and open his mind, the western chamber would be disrupted by Xuan's pet beast, and the invisible, secret script would almost be exposed as a result. Thinking of the precious item, Jing didn't think of anything else and quickened his pace. He planned to confirm it first, and if it was still there, he would just transfer it. Just as he entered the western courtyard, he saw his mother dressed in full attire walking towards his small courtyard. Mother Li Surong turned around at the sound, and due to her successful cultivation, her face looked very young. The contours of their facial features are quite similar to Hong Jing, and their blood relationship can be easily seen at a glance, especially the complex patterns on their foreheads that are faintly visible, adding a touch of beauty to their already delicate almond face. She was wearing a thin cross-neck jacket with a green onion white color on her upper body, a lake blue golden patterned horse face skirt under her, and a knee-high thick cloak with a red background and white edges on the outside. She also had some decorations such as a step swaying on her head. This outfit left a lasting impression on Hong Jingli. My mother is already a master of illuminating the underworld, and she wouldn't wear such dignified and atmospheric cold-resistant clothing on important days. He didn't wake up as early as today before, so when he was woken up, he was quite impatient and didn't pay much attention to his mother's clothes. I only remember my mother putting on a stern face and pretending to be very aggressive at the time, asking him to practice well. At least he had to open 54 orifices to change blood and increase lifespan, so as to save time for her to send a white-haired person to a black-haired person. Now it seems that my mother wanted to use this foot band to encourage him to practice well, which is why she changed her outfit to show her importance. Early in the morning, where have you been? Li Surong's face was quite serious. Mother, today is the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, right? Hong Jing, who was used to it, was already immune to his mother's intimidation, and whispered mysteriously beside Li Surong. What's going on? Hong Jing couldn't help but smile on his face after confirming that it was really the 6th day of junior high school today. The child has discovered a big secret. Being able to predict what would happen in the next few days, he wanted to show off in front of his mother. Which household gossip did you hear again? Li Surong showed no interest in any secrets. What kind of personality does this little rabbit have? Can she still not know? It must have been some servant who broke his lips and let him hear some gossip like secrets of a certain mansion. No. Hong Jing quickly waved his hand and then looked left and right. Seeing that the servants were far away, he continued in a low voice, Mom, I seem to know what will happen in the next 4 days. So. Li Surong didn't believe a word, but wanted to hear that he would come up with a story again this time. So. Hong Jing opened his mouth and blinked, isn't that good? I can now know what happened from now to the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, but tomorrow I won't be able to know what happened on the 10th day of the Lunar New Year. Oh, I can calculate now. Li Surong glanced at Hong Jing and said angrily, can you calculate how long the old man will keep you locked up this time? 3 days. Hong Jing raised his hand and extended 3 fingers. The day after tomorrow, which is the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, third brother opened the 54th orifice and then connected the ling tie to exchange blood. The old man let me go as soon as he was happy. Alas! Hearing Hong Min's accomplishments, Li Surong lost interest in listening to the story. He nodded at Hong Jing's forehead, which was exactly the same as her, and turned to his yard. Hong Jing followed her footsteps as she continued to speak. Although all 3 of us are chosen by heaven, only you have a slight strangeness. You were born with 11 of the 108 orifices, and even brought out 2 new orifices that were not included in your family. But how can you not compete for some energy? She was envious of the second room, and Hong Min was the most hard-working among the younger generation. At the age of only 1, Chang Jinger had already opened 53 orifices, just 1 step away from the blood exchange realm. On the other hand, what about our own family? My martial arts skills at home are well practiced, but I always think of ways to avoid the pain of enlightenment. From the age of 7 to 11 years now, I have only opened 10 orifices, almost only once a year. Thinking of this, Li Surong turned her head and asked, are you still 21 orifices now? You haven't had an orifices yet this year. Isn't it too painful? Hong Jing casually touched the back of his head. What he is most fortunate about now is that he was afraid of pain back then and dared not reveal that not only was he born with 11 orifices, but all the remaining orifices were also half-open secrets. If we really want our family to know, why don't we keep him closed every day for enlightenment and cultivation? But that was really painful. No one else hurt like that, so he suffered extra. Ah, Li Surong sighed again and sat down in the hall before continuing. My mother knows that your enlightenment is more painful than ordinary people, isn't it just pain? It won't take your life, so just endure it and it will pass. Hong Jing listened with lowered eyebrows and eyes, without refuting, comparing the words his mother had said with those in his memory. Perhaps it was because he woke up early today and saw his mother outside. There was a slight difference between the two times, but not much. As I remember, about half an hour later, my mother said the last paragraph. Your father and I have both changed blood 9 times and have entered the realm of light and darkness. Although the mansion only has 54 orifices and I have only opened 45 orifices for my mother, we cannot live to 200, but we should live to be 150 years old without any problem. But what about you? If you don't practice well, will you need to exchange blood with 27 or even 18 orifices? How many years will your lifespan increase? Can you bear to let the person with white hair give black hair to your mother? Although he had heard these words once, upon hearing them again, Hong Jing still felt a bit hesitant. I secretly decided in my heart that I would go for an opening surgery after getting rid of Dong Xc, to make my mother happy and save any accidents when Xiao brings the meatball tomorrow. I just have to suffer again. After sending his mother out of the courtyard, Hong Jing immediately arrived at the West Wing, and the precious, secret script he had obtained from Pang Chong was indeed still there. He can really predict the next few days. Unfortunately, my mother didn't believe it. After hiding the secret books with pictures on the crossbeam of the main house, Hong Jing felt relieved. Xuan was just a tame descendant of an ordinary ferocious beast, with a low bloodline and no ability to jump onto the beam, safe. After letting go of a concern, Hong Jing confessed to Shunzi and entered the main room. He sat cross-legged on the bed, ready to open his orifice. It is said that there are a total of 108 orifices in the human body, but the orifices are naturally closed. Newborn babies only have the eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and the yin and soul of the lower body, which are naturally half open. At this point, the body can only rely on these 9.5 open orifices to slowly absorb external energy. It is not until around the age of 6 that one can start practicing by using elixirs or masters of the illuminating underworld to clear their 9 orifices, which is also known as building a foundation. And because he was born with 11 orifices, including the 9 orifices, he did not bother his parents. Except for the congenital 9 orifices, the other 99 orifices are located in the pathway connecting these 9 orifices. With 9 orifices connected as one layer, there are a total of 12 levels in the enlightenment realm. However, due to the varying number of orifices controlled by different forces, not everyone can achieve 12 levels by opening 108 orifices. He has now opened 21 orifices, which can be considered as the 3rd layer. If he were to connect the Ling Tai to exchange blood now, the 3 orifices connected by the 9 orifices would be ineffective, which is what his mother just said about 18 orifices exchanging blood. It's like how the mansion actually mastered 58 orifices, but only referred to as 54 orifices, so the 2 new orifices he brought with him at birth, although of great value, were quite insignificant for the Hong mansion. I dare not take this thing out for trading or even promote it, it's too easy to get into trouble. As Hong Jing thought about these things, he activated his vital energy and nervously directed it towards the soon-to-be-opened acupoint. At the moment when the energy touched the acupoint, a piercing pain pierced the heart. Hiss, the cool air was sucked in through the clenched teeth. Pain. It's so fucking painful. Hong Jing's whole face was twisted in pain. Even if he had been mentally prepared and experienced such pain once a year, he still felt that the degree of pain was beyond human tolerance. Years of experience have taught Hong Jing the truth that long pain is not as good as short pain, and he immediately increased the impact of his energy on the acupoints. Sweat on the forehead instantly rained down, and most of the body was also soaked. Half an hour later, with a muffled groan, Hong Jing leaned back and gasped for breath, as if he had been pulled out of the water. In the past 2 years, every time he has finished opening an orifices, he can feel that there is still room for energy, as if he can continue to open the orifices. But it's of no use to him. If possible, he would rather not open his mind than endure this kind of pain. Hong Jing, who collapsed on the bed, weakly pulled down the rope beside him. The crisp sound of ding-ling-ling rang. The gatekeeper was immediately pushed open, and Shunzi's voice immediately came into his ears. "Congratulations, young master, you have opened another hole. Hong Jing hasn't recovered yet and doesn't have the heart to speak." Shunzi walked up straight and helped him to the side room, feeding him into a bucket full of hot water. A set of processes is incredibly proficient. After all, Hong Jing comes here once a year, and after more than a decade, the servants of Sanfeng have already formed the habit. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Resurrection from Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Resurrection from Death. Hong Jing, who had taken a hot bath, felt comfortable all over. His condition, apart from causing extreme pain when opening the orifices, will not affect anything else. Just calm down and it will be fine. Father Hong Jing went to Yuezhou 2 months ago. It is said that he wanted to explore the ancestral cave in order to obtain the secret technique of forging willpower and enter the middle period of the illumination. At lunchtime, there were only Li Serong and Hong Jing's siblings on the dining table in the west courtyard. Unless it's during holidays, special circumstances, or when the old man wants to liven up, the whole family will gather together for a meal. Usually, each room in the Hong mansion has its own small stove to eat. Qingyuan City is adjacent to 100,000 mountains, and the Hong family is one of the 3 major families in Qingyuan City. They have a wealth of wealth, and the dishes on the table are all cooked with ferocious animal meat and some aged medicinal herbs, which can nourish the body and strengthen qi and blood. Seeing that Hong Jing's face was tired and his hair had not yet dried completely, Li Surong knew that he had just opened his mind. Her heart was full of surprises, thinking that her morning words had an effect. Just as she was about to praise him, she was overtaken by Hong Xiuer's iron residue-like voice. "Mom, I'm ready to have an enlightenment after dinner," Hong Xiuer said, provocatively glancing at Hong Jing sitting opposite her. Hong Jing knew early on that she would have an opening in the afternoon, so he took a sip of rice expressionlessly and said calmly, "Come on, I just had an opening for you. You should work harder and strive to surpass me as soon as possible." It seemed like this matter was not worth mentioning, and Hong Xiuer across from her opened her mouth slightly, feeling a bit incredulous. "Why did you suddenly have an epiphany?" After leisurely picking up a chopstick of food, Hong Jing said slowly, "Thinking that this year's task has not been completed yet, I happened to be in a good mood this morning and decided to start." "You?" Hong Xiuer was angry. "Wait, I will definitely surpass you next year." Li Serong watched as the siblings were playing around with each other, chuckling inwardly. However, she scolded Hong Jing with her mouth, "Jinger, you're so grown up. Don't keep bullying Xiuer." Humph! Hong Xiuer let out a coquettish snort and looked proud when she saw her mother supporting her. Hong Jing pursed his lips. Li Surong praised the two of them, hoping that Hong Jing would work harder, while also reminding Hong Xiuer not to be anxious when she underwent an enlightenment and to prioritize safety. However, all 3 of them knew in their hearts that the 2 realms of enlightenment and blood exchange were actually the safest. As long as they didn't mess around on their own, there was basically no risk. In the afternoon, Xiuer did indeed have a smooth new opening as Hong Jing remembered. With his morning opening, his mother did not put her mouth on him again during dinner, nor did she let Xiuer supervise his practice the next day. Hong Jing also realized that he has the ability to change things in his memory, so he increasingly hopes to have memories after the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. But in the following 2 days, he did not have any new memories. Although everything happened as he knew, it also made him a little anxious. After all, He can only leave the mansion on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, and the things he predicted can only be useful for 1 day before falling asleep on the 9th day. He also thought about whether a new round of memories would only come in after the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. This made him unable to help but have some expectations. On the evening of the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, just as Hong Jing had predicted, the third brother Hong Min begged the old man for help with his breakthrough, and he was able to lift the ban. On the 9th day, it's another sunny day. Due to the anticipation of new memories appearing tomorrow, Hong Jing's desire to go hunting in the mountains had long been put aside. Even if it weren't for Pang Chong sending servants to deliver the message, he wouldn't have bothered to leave the mansion. At Yushi, Hong Jing invited his third brother Hong Min to a banquet together. In my memory, he was found by the servants of Pang Mansion in the city and went directly to the Itsue Tower, so the third brother did not participate. However, he has been in the mansion all day, so he specially went to the east courtyard to invite the third brother out. Qingyuan City is under the jurisdiction of Zhao County, Dali Jingzhou, and is located on the southeast side of the end of the remaining 100,000 mountains. It faces Dongshan City in Wen County, Yuzhou, across the mountains to the west, and there are often monks who venture across mountains and mountains to travel back and forth between the two places. More than 10 miles away from the North Gate is an endless range of mountains that cannot be seen at a glance. It is said that if you continue to climb over the mountains to the north, you will find the homeland of Yenzhou, which was occupied by the enemy country Dian. However, deep in the mountains, the vitality is chaotic and the population is extinct, so there are no wars in Qingyuan City. On the contrary, due to the abundant resources on the outskirts of the peaceful mountains, it has attracted many individual travelers from the rivers and lakes to hunt for treasures, making this place quite lively and bustling. However, because it is now deep winter, the city is cooler than before. Qingyuan City is not large, with only 2 main streets running through the 4 city gates, and the intersection of these 2 streets is the most densely populated area in the entire Qingyuan City. Itsue Tower, Wanbao Pavilion, Jiutian Inn, and Wangxian Tower each occupy a corner at this intersection. It is said that the name of Jiutian Inn is derived from the meaning of 9 levels in the entrance, 1 level in the sky, and its inns are open throughout the entire territory of Dali. And the Wanbao Pavilion is even more exaggerated, claiming that wherever there are cities in the world, there are Wanbao Pavilion shops. Hong Jing didn't agree with this. In the 3 kingdoms, there were 37 states and 328 counties in Dali alone. There were nearly 2,000 county towns like Qingyuan City, not to mention Dian and Daqi. Upon arriving at the Itsue Tower, the attendant who had been instructed by Pang Chong earlier saw Hong Jing and the 2 of them, and quickly invited them up. Min, Jing, you guys are here. Seeing the 2 of them, Pang Chong and Pang Su stood up to greet them. He and Hong Min are twins, now 16 and only 1 year younger than Hong Jing. They are cousins and have been playing since childhood, so they call Hong Jing their brother. Hong Jing said angrily, "Thanks to your old man, you didn't suffocate me to death." Hee, the Pang brothers chuckled in silence. The matter of their old man running to Hong Mansion to get rid of the plague was widely publicized in the mansion on the day he returned. After learning that Hong Jing was banned from walking, the 2 of them laughed wildly. "All right, if you want to laugh, just smile. You have arranged for 3 meals at the Tsuelo building, otherwise I won't be able to go out of anger." "No problem. 3 meals, 3 meals." Pang Chong agreed without saying a word and immediately changed the topic, saying, "Brother Jing, when will you return the thing to me? You've been watching it for a month, should you finish it?" Upon seeing this, Hong Min curiously asked, "Which secret books are they?" He remembered a few days ago when Hong Jing went to his courtyard and talked about those obscene wild books. Secret script. Pang Chong was stunned for a moment, then nodded repeatedly after realizing it. "Min, you don't know. When Jing took it, he agreed to take it for 3 days, but 3 days later, it's been a month." Seeing Hong Min looking over, Hong Jing's face couldn't hold back. Isn't it just a few broken books? In a few days, I'll get you something good. He is thinking that after having new memories tomorrow, he can use his predictive ability to do something good, so that he can show off in front of a few people. Upon seeing this, Hong Min changed the topic and said, I heard from Brother Jing that you two specifically went into the mountain today. Hey, isn't this Brother Jing leaving the mansion today? Pang Su took the conversation. It's also a coincidence. Not long after we entered the mountain, we ran into a young long-toothed leopard that the cook was working on. Hong Jing pursed his lips and indeed began to show off. In the world, fierce beasts are divided into 4 levels based on their bloodline. Emperor, King, General, and Soldier. There are not many fierce beasts that can enter the level, and the general level is extremely rare. The 2 levels of Emperor and King only exist in ancient books. Like Shoer's pet dog Meatball, it's still far from reaching the level. The long-toothed leopard mentioned by Pang Su has a high bloodline and is very close to the advanced stage. If it were a mature long-toothed leopard, these 2 brothers would probably not be able to return. Afterwards, as Hong Jing remembered, Pang Chang called out a few young ladies to accompany him in drinking, and invited a Qin player to play the piano in the room to cheer him up. A meal was said to be a welcome to him, but during the banquet, the Pang brothers were all showing off their long-toothed leopards. Hong Jing silently hoped for new memories to appear tomorrow, and he must pretend to be a big one. Thinking about something in his heart, he didn't drink as much this time as he remembered. Instead, he drank too much for his 3rd brother Hong Min and decided to stay overnight here. Hong Jing didn't dare, afraid that the old man would ban him again tomorrow. He even coaxed him back to the mansion, but didn't dare to send him back to the east courtyard. Instead, he sent Shunzi over to talk to his uncle. Perhaps influenced by the anticipation and anxiety, Hong Jing tossed and turned and struggled to fall asleep. I don't know how long it took, but in a daze, Hong Jing, who had just fallen asleep, was awakened by a few strange noises. He frowned and rolled over. Pang, the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground echoed in the courtyard, and Hong Jing felt something was wrong. He rolled over and got out of bed. Putting on a coat, I saw Shunzi lying in the courtyard with no sound when I left. Hong Jing, who saw a dead person for the first time in his life, felt a chill all over his body and was at a loss for a moment. At this moment, there was also a sound of a heavy object falling to the ground from the Shoer courtyard across the street. He finally regained his senses and shouted loudly, "Someone's attacking at night." Before he could finish speaking, his mother's voice exploded in the mansion, "You're so brave. Who dares to attack my home mansion at night?" This was the old man's voice. At the same time, there was chaos everywhere in the mansion. Hong Jing was about to go back to his room to get a knife when he saw a black figure leaping up from the Shoer courtyard and rushing across the courtyard with a cold light. He had just begun to dodge, his neck suddenly cooled, and then the whole world spun around, even seeing his headless body. That blood spurted high. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo. Hong Jing suddenly woke up from the bed, clutching his neck in panic and constantly groping. After reflecting for a long time, he looked around in shock and uncertainty. This is the main bedroom of my own courtyard. Outside the house, there were faint sounds of birds chirping, chickens crowing, and meatballs. He could also hear the slight movements made by Shunzi's deliberate light movements while cleaning the snow, as well as the faint noise coming from North Street. A peaceful scene. Hong Jing was trembling incessantly at the bedside, his heart even more in turmoil. Suddenly, he thought of something and turned his head to look at the leak on the table. Mao handover. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Early warning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Early warning. Good morning, young master. Hong Jing, wearing only a middle coat, stood in front of the door staring blankly at Shunzi, who was bowing to him with a broom in hand. Part of the snow in the courtyard had already been cleared. Did it snow again last night? Hong Jingmu asked, his fear of facing death slightly calmed down, but his hands still trembled. Although Shunzi was a bit puzzled as to why the young master ran out without washing up, he didn't take it to heart and replied, the young master didn't know anything. Yesterday, in the latter half of the night, it snowed quite heavily. Exactly the same. What day is it today? Hong Jing didn't know how he felt when he asked. I was killed for the first time in my life, but it seems like I have come back to life. Should one be grateful for their death and resurrection? Or should I be angry and inexplicably killed? My heart is really a mess. On the 6th day of the 11th lunar month today, it's freezing cold. Young master, could you go back to your room and add some clothes first? Shunzi saw Hong Jing's body tremble slightly, thinking he was frozen. After all, Hong Jingxiu is not very well known throughout the entire government. Hong Jingmu turned around expressionlessly and returned to the room. It's the 6th day of junior high again. Is this resurrection 3 days ago? Suddenly realizing that he had had a new opening on the 6th day of the 9th lunar month before his resurrection, he immediately checked his body. 21 orifices. It's indeed the 6th day of junior high school. Sitting in the room for a long time, Hong Jing unconsciously thought of being killed by someone in the mansion. That person is at least in the late stage of blood exchange, and they should have opened quite a few orifices. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to avoid it themselves. The other party should have killed Shun first, not right. He was disturbed halfway through his sleep, indicating that someone had been killed before Shunzi died, and then it was the sound of Shunzi falling to the ground that woke him up. When going out to check, that person was from Xuan, still not right. A spiritual light flashed by, and Hong Jing suddenly stood up, with hair and sweat all over his body standing up. He may not have been killed for the first time. There should have been another time before. That time he thought it was the nightmare. That time, he was awakened by his mother's mournful scream. At that time, her mother seemed to shout, Xuan, it should be because Xuan had been harmed, that's why his mother's mournful scream. And the white light I saw was probably the bright light when the soldiers cried and waved. At that time, there seemed to be the sound of broken doors and windows, and that person had broken through the window. He should have died at that time, not had nightmares, so the time he died in bed was the first time. That makes sense. Why does his predictive ability not have the memory after the 9th day of the Lunar New Year? And this time dying in the hospital is the second time. Memories surged out of his mind, and Hong Jing completely understood the doubts before his murder. But why do you come back to life twice on the morning of the 6th day of the Lunar New Year when the Yinmao period alternates? Hong Jing thought carefully for a while, but couldn't think of anything special except for his own death. Is it possible that in the future, as long as one dies, they will return to today? Shaking his head, he suppressed the idea and began analyzing the people who attacked Hong Mansion on the night of the 9th lunar month. I only saw Bai Mang for the first time and didn't have many clues. But since my mother cried out Xuan in sorrow and couldn't come to save him, she must have been dragged by someone, so there are at least 2 people in the west courtyard. Although I saw a dark shadow the second time, I couldn't see the person clearly. Even my mother, who had warned me and illuminated the underworld, couldn't come, indicating that the person who intercepted my mother was already there. In addition, after receiving his warning, elders in each courtyard shouted angrily, and before his own death, he could also hear the movements of each courtyard's actions. So at least one in each other hospital. There were at least 5 people who attacked the Hong Mansion at night, and the most likely were 7 or more. 2 have arrived at the west courtyard, and there are younger generations in both the main courtyard and the east courtyard, possibly 2 too. Hong Jing's thinking is becoming increasingly clear, and the number of people on the other side has been roughly determined. How should he stop it? If you tell your elders that you have been resurrected twice, you may be mistaken for being insane. So, just say that someone would attack at night. Should it have some effect? Not afraid of 10,000, just afraid of what if it's not. If it really doesn't work, then we can only use the last desperate method. Having made a decision, Jing washed up a bit and went out to his mother's courtyard. Just as I arrived at the gate, I met Xuan, who was sliding a ball of meat. Brother. Did you wake up so early today? Did you wet the bed? Or do you want to wake up earlier and sneak out? Still speaking with a hint of iron slag, Jing felt heartbroken at the thought that such a lovely sister had been killed twice. He rubbed Xuan's little head and said, "Don't worry, brother, I'll protect you this time." "Brother, did you take the wrong medicine?" Xuan looked puzzled. Jing didn't feel in the mood to argue with her. He shook his head and walked towards his mother's yard. "I'll go say hello to my mother. Take your time playing, and be careful when you're enlightened later. Don't let me handle it. You'll die suddenly on your own." "You just died suddenly." Xuan fought back like a cat with explosive fur. "Wong wong wong," the meatball also exclaimed along. Watching Jing's figure disappear from the corner, Xuan frowned and wondered. This brother didn't seem to be the one she was born with, and when did she say she was going to have an enlightenment today? West Courtyard main residence Li Surong had just finished dressing up and was about to leave for the Hongjing courtyard when she heard the maid Xuan report that the boy had come. She couldn't help but feel a little surprised. "I haven't seen him so proactive in the past. He has been scolded by the old man, so I want to behave well." Xuan didn't follow the joke, but said with a hint of confusion, "Young master seems to have something on his mind. His face is quite frightening." "Oh." Li Surong thought for a moment before smiling. "He must be acting like a demon again. It's better if he comes, so I don't have to go to the front hall. Let's take him there. The tone is not as virtuous and elegant as usual." If Jing saw it, he would definitely feel like he is not his own mother. After all, Jing was experiencing life and death for the first time. He had planned everything well before, but when he saw Li Surong in the front hall, he still had the urge to cry. "Xuan, go help me get something to eat. I haven't had breakfast yet this morning," she said, suppressing her emotions. "Yes, young master." After Xuan left, Li Surong furrowed her brows slightly and asked with concern, "What's wrong?" "I've been scolded by the old master and I'm not in a good mood." Jing couldn't stop and looked up, revealing a pair of bright red eyes. "Mother, someone wants to kill us." The voice trembled slightly, and the body trembled uncontrollably. Li Surong originally thought her son was acting like a demon again, but when she saw him like this, her doting heart instantly gained the upper hand and she stood up to embrace him. "Don't panic, tell your mother, who wants to kill you? Besides killing you, who else do you want to kill? I want to see who in Qingyuan City has such a bold person." Li Surong wouldn't believe it. "It's just a habit of many years," following Jing's words. "I don't know who it is, but at least 7 experts from the underworld will attack our Hong mansion at night." Although Jing's height was already higher than Li Surong's, he felt a strong sense of security at this moment, and his heart that had been hanging for a long time also fell back. Li Surong didn't believe it anymore, but continued with the words, 7 shining stars. Attacking our house at night. In my heart, I silently pondered under what circumstances Hong mansion would be attacked. Excluding the influence of the government, due to martial arts reasons, the highest combat power of Qingyuan City was in the early stage of the Xiaoming realm. In addition to mastering 54 tricks, the 3 major families in the city also have Xuanjia level mental and martial arts skills. Although they are only the first level of Xuanjia, they have a qualitative difference compared to the Huangjia martial arts of other forces. And the other forces in the city only have a maximum of 45 orifices, which weakens their strength. 7 Xiaoming night raids on the Hong mansion. I'm afraid they came to die, right? Even if it causes some casualties to the Hong mansion will turn around and exterminate it. Do you really think that the current status of the Hong mansion in Qingyuan City can be peacefully developed? If the crime of Huaibi provoked a major force to take action, it is even more impossible. The most valuable thing in the Hong mansion may be the 2 new orifices brought by Jinger when she was born. But only the old man, big brother, their couple, and Jinger were aware of this matter, and even Xuan was not aware of it yet. How could this possibly lead to disaster? She was still pondering when she heard Hong Jing say, "Not 7, at least 7 will shine in the underworld. They will come on the night of the 9th lunar month." Li Serong, seeing his affirmation, also doubted the authenticity of what he said. "On the night of the 9th lunar month, where did you get the intelligence?" Hong Jing's emotions had completely calmed down at this moment, and he shook his head and said, "Don't worry about the source of the intelligence for now. Please ask uncle and uncle to go to the backyard together and inform the old man about this matter." Upon hearing this, Li Serong frowned and said, "Do you want to tell the old man about this? Could you also invite your uncle and uncle to come over?" She suddenly realized that Hong Jing didn't seem to be fabricating any lies. "Such a big thing, we must let them all know, so we can be on guard." Hong Jing felt a bit surprised by his mother's reaction, but didn't think much. Li Serong's expression had gradually become solemn. After staring at Hong Jing for a long time, she slowly spoke up, "You know, if we make things known to the whole government and there is nothing to do on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, the old man may not spare you lightly. The child understands." Hong Jing nodded solemnly. If nothing really happens, the child would like to be confined in the backyard until the blood is changed. He had just considered that only by detailing the number and timing of the attackers would it attract the attention of the elders, even if he could not reveal the source of the intelligence. Li Serong finally set aside her previous prejudices and truly took this matter seriously. She turned her back to the hall door, closed her eyes, and carefully replied to Hong Jing's words. Her vermilion lips slightly parted, and she whispered, "Chuer." "Madam." Chuer, who was serving a portion of food, bowed slightly below the steps outside the hall. "Go to the main courtyard, ask the master to go to the backyard and say that the 3rd room has important matters to discuss." "Yes, madam." "Lure." "Madam." The other maid also bowed and stood by. "You go to the east courtyard, please move on, second master." "Yes, madam." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Trusting Elders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Trusting Elders. Li Serong originally intended to leave Hong Jing in the west courtyard, but couldn't resist Hong Jing's strong demand and had to bring him along. When the mother and son arrived at the backyard, the old man Hong Xian was fishing by the pond. From the 3rd family. Seeing Li Serong bringing Hong Jing over, Hong Xian was somewhat surprised and smirked, saying, "But what did this little rabbit do again? Did you bring him over to apologize?" "Good morning, old man." Li Serong bowed and made a gesture of great fortune. "Serong has some news that I would like to invite you to discuss. I also invited my elder brother and second brother. They will arrive later." "Oh." Hong Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and after a moment of contemplation, the old man put away his fishing gear and stood up, saying, "Let's go and talk to the Huxin pavilion." The mother and son followed silently. Looking at his mother's back in front of him, Hong Jing's emotions were extremely complicated. He knew that his mother had not completely believed his words, but just now he took the matter over in front of the old man. In case there is no one attacking at night on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, we can protect him. Silently sighed. After arriving at the Huxin pavilion, the old steward Fubo brought some tea and snacks. Shortly after he left, Hong Jing's uncle Hong Fong and his second uncle Hong Ting arrived together. Before entering the pavilion, Hong Fong spoke up and asked, "Sister-in-law, what's going on? You even want to disturb the old man?" Li Serong clasped her hands and bent down to make a bow. Serong learned that someone would attack our mansion at night on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, so she asked the old man and his 2 uncles to prepare early. Ah! Hong Fong was about to sit down when he heard this and turned back in shock. He looked at Li Surong incredulously and asked, "The night raid on our mansion. Where did you get the news, younger sister?" Hong Jing hesitated to be impolite and interjected, "It was the news that Jinger received." The old man sat in the pavilion with a big horse and a golden sword. When he heard Hong Jing's words, his eyes lifted and then lowered again, as if he had not heard anything. Hong Feng looked at Hong Jing and said, "Where did you get the news from?" He inherited the burly physique of the old man and was usually reserved for laughter. Apart from the old man, Hong Jing's scariest uncle in the mansion was this one. At this moment, when asked about the source of the news by the uncle, he had to grit his head and reply, "Uncle, the source of the information is completely reliable. Even if Jinger is stubborn, he will not make a joke about it. At least 7 Xiaoming will be dispatched to attack and kill us and other young people after entering the mansion. Jinger has not yet known the specific reason. How did you know that the newcomer would first assign someone to attack and kill your younger generation?" Uncle Hong raised an eyebrow, obviously not believing Hong Jing's words. "I was almost killed by the word hissing, but Hong Jing immediately changed his mind and said, 'I am willing to guarantee my life.'" "Nonsense." Hong Feng glared at him, "It's all your elders. Who wants your life? What did you say you were killed by just now?" "It's nothing," Hong Jing shook his head. "Now's not the time to ask these questions. The key is how to prevent the enemy from attacking. If there's nothing wrong on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, I'll move to the backyard and voluntarily ban my feet in the future. I won't leave the mansion without changing my blood." Hong Feng was still waiting to ask, but Li Surong took a step forward and softly said, "Jinger, you can say whatever you know. We have our own judgment on whether it's true or false." Except for the old man who didn't make any movements, Hong Feng and Hong Yen both nodded. At one point, he used his life as a guarantee, and at another point, he used the phrase, "not exchanging blood, not leaving the mansion," as evidence, which shows that this kid truly believes that there will be an enemy attack on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. Who in the whole family knows that giving him enlightenment is like taking his life? Whether this kid has received any false news is another matter, but they will definitely be prepared for a night attack, which will only take about 2 or 3 days. I just hope to learn more about the situation from Hong Jing, to see if someone is daring to spread false news or if there are really those who are not afraid of death coming to attack at night. They can also be more prepared. Although Hong Jing had been prepared early on, he only experienced his own death last night. Now that he kindly warned his elders, he was not understood and couldn't help feeling extremely aggrieved. For a moment, he couldn't come up with any excuses, so he simply turned his heart and closed his eyes, speaking at an extremely fast pace. "I have been experiencing some inexplicable things lately. Before this happened, I didn't believe it myself, but the fact is that I was killed in the mansion on the night of the 9th day of the Lunar New Year and resurrected this morning." After finishing speaking, he looked at the crowd with some anticipation and said, "Do you believe it?" A deathly silence in the pavilion. The old man, who had been sleeping all along, stopped posing and looked at Hong Jing with a look of kindness in his eyes. Uncle Hong Feng pulled several pulled-off beards, his mouth twitching. Bo Hong Yen looked at him as if he were looking at a fool. My mother covered her face with both hands and looked embarrassed to see anyone. "I said you wouldn't believe it." Hong Jing felt bitter in his heart. Although he had long known that no one would believe such an outrageous thing, he was still disappointed at this moment. The feeling of not being believed despite telling the truth is too uncomfortable for him. As the matter came to an end, he had no choice but to continue. "Actually, I died twice. The first time, someone killed me before I was fully awake, and I didn't feel much. The second time, I didn't sleep too much, and when I woke up, I watched helplessly as the person stabbed me in the head. When I woke up in the morning, I was extremely scared." As he spoke, he thought of the moment when he died again and turned his head to look at Li Surong, his eyes filled with fear. "Mom, when I just went to find you, I hadn't recovered yet. That person jumped out of Shoer courtyard, and I was beheaded without even lifting my hand. That appearance made Li Surong feel heartbroken, and she hugged him tightly. I believe you, I believe you. She patted Hong Jing's back while turning her head to signal to the old man. After the old man frowned and nodded slightly, she said, let's go back to the west courtyard first. I'll leave this matter to your grandfather and 2 uncles. How dare Hong Jing leave? If these elders really think he's talking nonsense, they might be killed again on the night of the 9th lunar month, and they don't know if he can come back to life. With this in mind, he broke free from his mother's embrace and took a deep breath. After his emotions calmed down a bit, he spoke solemnly, Grandpa, Uncle, second uncle, Mother, it doesn't matter if you believe me to die and be resurrected. Just listen to the story, but please take the incident of someone attacking on the 9th day of the Lunar New Year seriously. A few people looked at each other, with only Hong Xian frowning and pondering. For a moment, a needle could be heard falling in the pavilion. For a long time, the old man stood up tall, with a burly figure like a tiger emerging from its cage. He slowly walked up to Hong Jing with his hands on his back and leaned down slightly to look into his eyes, saying, no matter whether what you said is true or false, the mansion will have people investigate it. We will also be prepared for the next few nights. With this sentence, Hong Jing finally let go of his heart and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Seeing the old man straighten up again, he continued, if this is just your imagination, no one will attack you on the night of the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. You brought it on yourself not to exchange blood or leave the mansion. Hong Jing nodded repeatedly and said, if there's nothing else, my grandson can move over by himself. You can personally supervise. Okay. The old man patted Hong Jing's shoulder, you go back first, and leave the rest to us. Yes. Hong Jing took 2 steps back, put his hands together, and bowed to everyone. Jinger, please leave. After his figure disappeared, the old man turned around and entered the pavilion. He walked to the railing and looked outside calmly, saying, let's talk. Li Surong lowered her head and remained silent. After Hong Feng and Hong Yen exchanged a glance, Hong Yen, who was the second in command, spoke up first, maybe it's Jinger's imagination. There's no such thing as resurrection from death in the world. Could it be that he was scared by you yesterday? How could that be? Hong Feng shook his head. It's reasonable to say that Hao was scared. Although Jinger is also afraid of the old man, he has had a strong drive since childhood, so he wouldn't be scared and develop a delusion. Hong Hao is his son, who has been pampered uncontrollably since childhood. After being scolded by the old man when he was young, he became extremely afraid of him. What about the resurrection from death? I was killed twice, Hong Ting retorted. Li Surong suddenly looked up and said firmly, I believe it. Without looking at the incredible gazes of the two, she continued with a nostalgic look in her eyes, Jinger has been lying since childhood because of the extremely painful experience of enlightenment. She always tries her best to escape the pain of enlightenment. I, as a mother, have been battling wits and courage with him over the years. I often listen to his lies as stories and don't expose them. But how could I not know the truth? I just followed his words because I felt sorry for him. But this time it's different. Although he's stubborn, he has a great sense of propriety and can't lie about such things, and I didn't notice his little actions when lying. Last night, after he was scolded by the old man, I wanted to go comfort him, but he had nothing to do at that time. He even said that he had become accustomed to being scolded by the old man and would be able to leave the mansion in a few days. It doesn't seem like he has a paranoia. After she finished speaking, the pavilion fell silent again. After a while, the old man turned around and glanced at the 3 of them, saying calmly, regardless of whether this resurrection from death is true or false, we need to investigate the enemy's attack in advance. I want to see if someone will not take me seriously if I don't take action for a long time. Yes. I'll arrange it now. Hong Feng bowed and clasped his fists. I will also make people in various stores pay attention to unfamiliar people who have recently entered the city. Hong Xian is in charge of all the shops in Hong Mansion. The old man nodded and made the final arrangement, let Lao Fu and the four of them stationed in each courtyard these days just in case. Now that Lao San is not here, one more person will be assigned to the west courtyard. Yes. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Surviving in Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Surviving in Death. After receiving the assurance of the old man, Hong Jing's heart completely let go and experienced a great terror of facing life and death. He felt a strong sense of urgency about the matter of cultivation. So, after returning to the east courtyard, he greeted Shunzi, mainly saying that this enlightenment would take more time, so that he wouldn't make a fuss and make his family worried. Afterwards, Hong Jing entered the house and began to have an opening. The pain is still so painful, but due to experience in opening this orifice, it took less time than last time, which surprised him quite a bit. However, he did not stop there and continued to open the 23rd orifice. He has only discovered in the past 2 years that he is confident of continuous enlightenment. He was born with half-open orifices. In the past 2 years, when his body grew up, he found that every time he opened one orifice, he still had spare energy, as if he could continue to open a second one. Moreover, the recovery period between 2 openings is much shorter than that of ordinary people. Just like their brothers, they all practice the Xuanguangju, the first-level mental technique of the Xuanjia level. However, the recovery period of other people's bodies after enlightenment is usually 40 days, and at least 30 days. And after his physical growth in the past 2 years, he only needs more than 20 days to be able to open his mind again. Just because it was too painful, he didn't try it either continuously or again after his body recovered. In the morning, he planned that if his elders really didn't believe what he said, he would open several orifices on the spot to make them value his words. Everyone knows that he is afraid of pain, and opening a hole is like taking his life, let alone opening several holes. That would definitely attract the attention of the elders. Fortunately, he did not reach this point, but now that he has experienced the great terror of life and death, Hong Jing has attached great importance to improving his own strength. He doesn't want to be killed like a chicken anymore. When Li Serong returned to the east courtyard and found that Hong Jing was actually having an opening, she became more and more convinced of her son's words, but she was not aware that Hong Jing was continuously having an opening at this time. After opening 3 orifices in a row, Hong Jing felt exhausted and reached his limit, so he stopped working. After the pain subsided, he practiced the first-level martial arts skill of the Xuanjia family, Sunset Blade, without leaving home. At the same time, the Hong Mansion also dispatched personnel to quietly investigate potential incoming enemies. The actions of Hong Mansion cannot be concealed from the major forces in the city. The Pang and Zhang families, who are both members of the 3 major families, even sent people to inquire, but were simply dismissed by Hong Feng, who was in charge of this matter. However, for 3 consecutive days, the Hong Mansion was unable to find any news, and even Li Serong, who believed in Hong Jing the most, began to doubt it. But they didn't know that as early as the afternoon of the 6th day of the 9th lunar month, when the Hong Mansion had just begun to investigate, a piece of intelligence was secretly sent out of Qingyuan City. November 8th at night, a crescent moon hangs high, and Hong Mansion is peaceful and tranquil. Hong Jing, who had been practicing swordsmanship for a whole day, slept soundly. The old man Hong Xian's angry shout exploded in the mansion, "You're so brave, there's really someone who doesn't take me seriously." Hong Jing suddenly jumped off the bed and glanced at the leak on the table. 6/4 of the hour of high. Without much time to think, he grabbed the long sword by the side of his bed and rushed out. As soon as he left, he saw Fubo and Yunbo fighting against a black shadow. There were also sounds of fighting coming from my mother's yard. After hearing the sound of him pushing the door, Fubo shouted without looking back, "Fourth young master, take Miss 5 to hide." Although he and Lao Yun are also in the dark realm, they have only opened 36 orifices, and their mental and martial arts skills are only at the Huang level, to the extent that they can work together without showing signs of decline. Hong Jing was about to rush out of the courtyard, wanting to take Xuan to his mother's side, but Li Su Rong's voice immediately came, "Go to the old man's place." He immediately understood that his mother might not be able to stop him either. Without hesitation, Hong Jing knocked open 2 courtyard doors one after another and saw Xuan standing on the steps of the main house, dressed in a middle coat and somewhat bewildered, with a ball of meat barking loudly beside her. Hong Jing approached and grabbed her. "Let's go." "Brother, what's wrong?" Hong Xuan asked in a flustered expression as Hong Jing stumbled. "Someone attacked at night." Hong Jing's heart was extremely chaotic at this moment. From being awakened just now to now, his mind was almost blank, relying solely on instinct to act. After speaking, he suddenly realized that today is not the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. Why did the night raid time change? Upon hearing this, Hong Jing ran and asked, "What day is it today?" "On the 8th day of the Lunar New Year," Hong Xuan blurted out and then asked in a panic, "How could someone attack our house?" "Let's go to the old man's side first." Hong Jing said no more and headed straight to the backyard with his sister, who was already able to run on her own. At this moment, the sound of fighting had already sounded everywhere in the mansion, and he knew from the occasional angry cheers of several elders that the newcomer was extremely strong, as if he had fallen behind everywhere. The old man used to keep asking the other person who he was, but no one answered. Now, only the sound of intense fighting came from there, and I don't know what the situation is. When the siblings followed the sound of a fight and arrived near the Guanyin building in the backyard, a clash of weapons exploded nearby. Then they saw the old man take several steps back and appear not far in front of them. This situation immediately lifted Hong Jing's heart, and he didn't expect even the old man to fall behind. He was about to take Xuan on a detour to a remote place to hide when he caught sight of a man in black on a nearby rockery. Without saying a word, Hong Jing dragged Xuan around and ran, but just then, Xuan suddenly spoke up, "Grandpa," the old man's low drink came from behind, "Don't come over, run away." However, without taking 2 steps, he felt a pain in his heart and then his eyes darkened. I could faintly hear the old man's roar. "Hoo hoo! Hoo hoo!" Hong Jing suddenly woke up from the bed, panting heavily and frantically scanning around. A familiar environment is one's own main bedroom. Turn your head to look at the notch on the table. Or the handover between Yin and Mao. There is still the sound of Shunzi gently sweeping snow outside. "Shunzi!" Hong Jing suddenly shouted. "Young master, are you awake? But do you want to wash yourself with water?" The sound of cleaning stopped, and Shunzi's voice immediately came. "What day is it early today?" "Young master, today is the 6th day of the Lunar New Year. I'm back again. On the 9th day of the lunar calendar, if you die at night, you will return to the present, and on the 8th day of the lunar calendar, if you die at night, you will also return to the present. What statement is there that cannot be made? Or is it that he has been circulating throughout these days?" Hong Jing thought for a while but couldn't figure it out. He just got out of bed, picked up the kettle on the table, drank it all in one gulp, and sat down to ponder carefully. He was killed behind his back this time, and died quickly, so he didn't feel much, he was just surprised by the opponent's strength. There is not a place in the mansion that has the upper hand. Even the old man is no exception. Although the old man may have been guarding against the black-clothed man on the rockery, this also indicates the strength of these people. And there are actually 2 people in the backyard, which means that the other party has at least 8 people. With the strength of our family alone, we may not be able to stop the incoming people. Also, why did the other party launch an early night attack? The difference this time is that I have warned my elders in advance. Did any variables arise as a result? If that's the reason, then it must be that the people in the mansion caught the attention of the other party while investigating in the city, and then took action in advance. This indicates that thinking of this, Hong Jing slowly got up and paced back and forth in the room. This indicates that the other party is in Qingyuan City, not right. If they are in the city and have superior strength, why did they have to wait until the 9th day of the Lunar New Year before taking action? Even if it alarmed the other party this time, it was only 1 day earlier. Is it because the main force hasn't arrived yet? Or are these people not even locals? Is it possible to make a time difference and escape with the whole family? Hong Jing immediately shook his head to dispel this idea. He is currently unable to trust his elders, and last time the old man and 2 uncles only stepped up their guard just in case. This time, if he dares to say that his whole family is fleeing, the old man dares to break his leg. How exactly should we break the game? Hong Jing, who was only wearing a middle coat, looked up at the roof and fell into contemplation. For a long time, his eyes suddenly lit up. This is already the 3rd resurrection. Does it mean he can be resurrected infinitely? And every time he dies, he always returns to the current time. Can he use this method to collect more information about the other party? Or perhaps you can ask the old man for a secret code, or even uncover some of his secrets. Will this make it easier for the old man to believe you after the next resurrection? Hong Jing's eyes became increasingly bright, and after careful calculation, he found that this method was highly feasible. I just died a few more times after doing it, right? As soon as my eyes closed, they passed away, causing pain before I could even open my eyes. I just get used to dying and dying. The contract has been sent out, requesting follow-up reading, collecting, investing, and seeking anything new. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. An Old Man in a Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. An old man in a family. Hong Jing cleaned up a bit and planned to go to his mother's place first. Before leaving the house, I heard the barking of a dog from the meatball, and suddenly remembered something. I turned around and entered the west wing, took out the secret book hidden here, rubbed it for a long time, and then painfully destroyed it. If Meatball were to uncover this thing during his days in the backyard, his lifelong innocence would be gone. Going out again, Hong Jing felt refreshed. Brother. Did you wake up so early today? Did you wet the bed? Or do you want to wake up earlier and sneak out? If it's still the smell of iron slag, but Hong Jing's mindset has completely changed since he was certain that every time he died, he would return to today. Your brother and I have reformed and changed our ways. I plan to move to the backyard today to accompany the old man. Hong Xiu'er stared blankly, open her mouth, unable to believe that this was what her brother had said. When Hong Jing passed by her side, he couldn't help but crumple her hair with his hands and run away before laughing. Be careful when you have an opening later. Dead Hong Jing, I've been doing my hair for an hour. You wait for me, when I surpass you in the future, see if I don't rub your dog's head every day. Hong Xiu'er shouted angrily. Wang, I arrived at my mother's courtyard all the way and was taken by Chuer to the front hall. After seeing his mother this time, Hong Jing didn't almost cry like last time. Instead, he felt that he was so old and almost cried his nose, which was too embarrassing. Is the sun setting in the west today? Why did our young master come early in the morning to greet my old mother? Li Surong lazily sat back in the main seat, teasing Hong Jing with a raised voice. Hong Jing awkwardly touched his nose and sneered, the child knows his mistake, and will always come to greet his mother in the future. Shu, Li Surong rolled her eyes, you don't even believe that yourself, do you? You have something to say. In her opinion, this little brat probably thought of some reason to escape the old man's foot ban yesterday. Hong Jing was so scared by his mother's words that he scratched his feet and rubbed the back of his head before saying, Mom, my child dreamed of being chased last night and died a miserable death. After careful consideration, I have decided to move to the backyard today to practice well. Are you moving to the backyard? Li Surong's eyes were full of suspicion, and she secretly guessed what kind of demon this kid was doing. This time, the route was completely different from before. That's right. Hong Guandi nodded. Being stared at by the old man every day in the backyard can be a bit more stressful. You know my temperament, I think it's good now, but I don't know when I'll change my mind. Are you serious? Li Surong stood up and asked. She couldn't believe that it was actually what his son said. It's absolutely true. Hong Jing looked serious, and he really wanted to practice well, but the main purpose of going to the backyard was not here. Move today. Move now. Li Surong's eyes narrowed slightly, thinking that this little rabbit was not a bad thing by the old man's side, so she agreed to this. Until Hong Jing's figure disappeared around the corner, she still couldn't understand why this son suddenly changed his mind. Tell me, why did you suddenly think about coming to the old man? Hong Xian asked without looking back at the floating gourd in the pond. Hong Jing sat casually next to the old man and said, "It's nothing, I just want to find a place to practice well. With you by my side, I dare not slack off, right?" "Shoot," the old man sneered, modified it. "How could I change my surname to another one besides Hong?" The old man shook his head with a smile and said with a nostalgic tone, "You've been close to the old man since you were young. Although you're a bit mischievous, you're still likable, but as you grow older, you become less and less adorable. In the past, when I banned you from leaving the mansion, you always tried to make me happy and then let you go. How could you wait for Minner to break through this time?" Hong Jing was suddenly shocked. According to the initial development, it was indeed after the third brother Hong Min broke through and changed blood, he pleaded with the old man and was able to lift the ban. But Sangu only decided to break through last night, which was the night of the 5th day of the Lunar New Year. Unexpectedly, the old man knew about this. He couldn't help but touch his nose and honestly explained, "Third brother mentioned last night that he plans to make you happy after breaking through in the next 2 days, so that he can take the opportunity to plead with you. Before waking up today, I had always wanted to take this opportunity to leave the mansion, but I had a dream last night and after waking up, I changed some of my previous thoughts." "Oh, the fish is biting the hook." The old man lifted the rod and asked, "What dream would make you want to come here to practice?" Hong Jing sighed, "I dreamed that I had been being chased by people all along. I lived and died, and the ways of death were varied. I couldn't escape. This feeling was really powerless, so I thought about practicing hard to avoid encountering such things in the future." Wow! A big fish with a long arm emerged from the water, splashing high water. The old man unhooked the big fish and threw it into a net bag soaked in water. He then casually threw the fishing rod aside before turning his head and laughing, "If I could stimulate you like this, you might have died a miserable death in your dream, right?" "Who said it wasn't?" Hong Jing looked unbearable. "Once, Fubo and Yinhua even teamed up to stop that person. I thought I was saved, but to my surprise, that person caused Fubo and Yinhua to retreat step by step. What strength do you think is needed to achieve this? At least you need to have the same level of strength as your father. Your uncle may be a bit inferior, but he should be able to make a fair play." Hong Xian only said that his grandson was curious, but he didn't think much. After finishing his words, he joked again, "Why, when you were chased by someone in your dream, it was old Fu and his team who went to save you. Why isn't it your father?" "It's not me, the old man, who went to save you." Hong Jing spat out, "You don't know, my dream is so strange. It's just that our Hong mansion has been ambushed repeatedly, and there are still quite a few people coming. Your elders have been dragged down, so how could you come and rescue me?" "Oh, that's quite a coincidence." Hong Xian felt that his grandson, who was usually very ghostly, had such a miserable dream, and couldn't help but feel a little amused by it. "Isn't that right? Coincidentally, this dream was just a tumultuous event, and I kept getting killed repeatedly in the past few days. Once, I even told you in advance that some people would attack at night, but those people came a day earlier. Can you explain the reason behind this? Hong Xian said with a smile, what's the reason in the dream? If in reality, if I know that someone is coming, I will send someone to investigate in secret first, so that it may startle the other party. Based on the situation in your dream, the newcomer's strength is probably stronger than ours, so we are not afraid that we are prepared. Taking action in advance is probably to prevent accidents. Hong Jing's eyes lit up, and compared to him, the old man's casual analysis was more comprehensive. Indeed, there is an old man in the family, like a treasure. If we really encounter such a thing, how should we deal with it? Hong Xian glanced at him and said angrily, in a small county like Qingyuan, the only one that can be stronger than our family is the government. If the government wants to take action against us, it's useless to find any way. Let's wait for the whole family to die. After speaking, he picked up the fishing rod and baited it, ready to continue fishing. The old man's words really surprised Hong Jing. He turned his head and realized that it wasn't quite right. If it were the government, the other party wouldn't have to wait until the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. They would have to wait until death if they sent troops to surround them. With this in mind, Hong Jing said to the old man who had just thrown his pole, "Grandpa, I just carefully recalled that those who came to attack at night in my dream are unlikely to be officials." Hong Xian glanced at him and said, "It's just a nightmare. Why are you thinking so much? Do you still want to continue seeking revenge in your dream tonight?" Hong Jing's eyes lit up instantly, thinking in his heart whether he could use the excuse of continuous dreaming next time to get the old man to help him come up with ideas. He originally wanted to ask something more, but when he saw that the old man had lost interest in conversation, he turned around and said, "Grandpa, I'll go get some insight first. You can analyze it for me later. If I don't understand this, I always feel a bit uneasy." Hong Xian turned around in surprise when he heard that he was going to have an enlightenment. "Are you really changing your mind? How could you take the initiative to have an enlightenment? Isn't it all caused by this dream? Can you help me analyze it later?" Hong Xian raised his hand and patted his shoulder, saying with a relieved expression on his face, "Cheng, as long as you practice well, these are not problems." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Refusing to Believe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Refusing to believe. I don't know if it's Hong Jing's illusion, but when he had an opening this time, the pain seemed to be slightly weaker. Is it difficult because it hurts a lot and you will gradually get used to it? Think about it too, even getting used to death. What is this pain worth? Hong Jing, who was lost in thought, almost burst into laughter. He quickly restrained his mind and focused on opening his mind. This time, he still opened 3 acupoints in a row, because he had opened these 3 acupoints in the previous round of resurrection, so it took less time than the previous one. Shunzi, after finishing his work, Hong Jing's face had no trace of blood on it. As it was not his own courtyard and there were no rope bells here, he could only summon Shunzi weakly. "Young master, you have finally taken credit." Shunzi heard the sound and broke through the door, his words full of concern. After helping Hong Jing up, he whispered again, "The old master waited outside for almost an hour, and he only left when I came in." Hong Jing was slightly taken aback, then remembered that he had forgotten to tell Shunzi the time beforehand. "The old man didn't say anything, did he?" "That's not a problem, just let you calm down and go to the water pavilion for dinner." Hong Jing frowned slightly and said, "Later, you go tell the old man, I'll wash up and go." It was already past midnight before he had his enlightenment, and it was almost noon. The old man was still waiting for him to eat. After a hasty wash, Hong Jing dragged his tired body to the Tingshui pavilion. On the way, he had plans to reveal to the old man about half opening his various orifices and being able to open several orifices in a row. One is to explain the timing of this enlightenment. Both are also to add some weight to oneself, so as to demand a secret code from the old man. Hong Xian knew about Hong Jing's habit after he had an opening, and when he came over with a pale face before he could recover his strength, he frowned inadvertently and scolded, "Why don't you soak too much? There's no way to make Grandpa wait for his grandson to eat." Hong Jing smiled. After he took his seat, Hong Xian asked, "What's going on? Did that nightmare really affect him?" Hong Jing pursed his lips and said, "It's not because of this, it's mainly because I was born with all my orifices half open. After opening one orifices today, the orifices are half open." Hong Xian, who has always been as stable as Mount Tai, looked at Hong Jing for a long time after interrupting his words, and then said, "Why didn't you say it before?" Hong Jingshan smiled and said, "I didn't understand before. I was afraid that you might force me to open my mind and practice, so I kept it a secret until now." This statement made Hong Xian's mouth twitch, wishing he could squeeze his grandson to death. Such a great talent has been hidden from his family for 11 years. I can see this kid's pale and tired face, and I can understand again. Who would suffer from collapse if a normal person opens an opening? Suddenly thinking of what was interrupted earlier, he asked, "What happened after you said you had opened one orifices? Since you have half opened all orifices, why did you use it for so long today?" Hong Jing breathed a sigh of relief as he didn't get scolded by the old man. "In the past 2 years, I've felt like there's still room for improvement after every opening. Today, after opening one, I tried it. Just now, I opened 3 consecutive openings, so I spent more time." "How many tricks?" The conversation was interrupted again. 3 orifices. Hong Xian felt that after a brief moment of effort, his heart relaxed and relaxed. If it weren't for his successful cultivation, he might have fainted. After his emotions calmed down a bit, Hong Xian smacked his lips again before continuing, "Half open all the orifices, 3 at a time. Your talent is really unheard of. If this spreads, the 6 sects or even the 4 sects may be rushing to recruit you as a beginner." Hong Jing asked curiously, "Isn't it true that these top sects rarely accept family members?" Today, the world is dominated by the 3 kingdoms, with the 6 schools and 4 schools being the top sects within the territory of Dali. Among them, the 4 major schools are the most powerful outside the royal family of Dali, with the 6 schools being at a lower level. These sects are almost all formed by the union of multiple families, with very few children from outside families as disciples, mostly ordinary families with simple identities or orphans. He always thought it was for this reason, so no one in their family worshipped the sect. "Hey," Hong Xian sneered, "they're talking about that kind of big family. What kind of family is our Hong family in people's eyes? Those big sects have ways to prevent you from spreading the sect's martial arts." Hong Xian didn't want to talk too much about this matter and asked, "That dream gave you so much pressure that it made you work hard and open 3 orifices at once?" In his opinion, Hong Jing's unusual visit to the backyard today for enlightenment and his confession of a secret that had been hidden for more than 10 years must be related to the dream he talked about this morning. "Grandpa, eat while talking." Hong Jing stood up to refill the old man's drink, poured himself another glass, and then continued, "This dream is too clear, and it has always been about those people attacking our house at night. I'm afraid this is a warning, so I'm quite anxious." Ziliu Hong Xian took a sip and said, "Please tell me carefully. Let's analyze while eating." Hong Jing secretly praised in his heart, picked up a chopstick of scallions to stir-fry the armored cow, and then said, "There is a group of people who will come on the night of the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. After being killed a few times, I told you about someone who would attack at night, but those people actually came on the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. In the morning, you said that only the government had this kind of strength in Qingyuan City, but I don't think it's like what the government did. If the government did it, since they could come a day earlier, why did they have to do it on the night of the 9th day before? As you said, if we find out what we are investigating, shouldn't we start fighting on the 6th and 7th day of junior high school? Why wait until the 8th day?" Hong Xian held his wine glass for a moment of thought before nodding in agreement. "Your clever spirit is as sharp as ever. According to what you say, it's not necessarily the government, it's highly likely that it's external forces. Everything has a reason. You didn't realize in your dream why they had to come to our mansion to kill. Jing shook his head and said, those people are like mute people, killing people from beginning to end without revealing a word. Speaking of which, he turned the conversation around and said, Grandpa, if I dream about this again tonight, how should I deal with them in my dream? How else can we deal with it? Xian glanced at him and said angrily, you praised your cleverness just now. It's obvious that your strength is not as good as a person, so you can't bring your whole family to run together. But then you have to believe me. Jing blurted out these words. Xian smiled and said, that's right. Seeing that the groundwork was almost over, Jing decided to get to the point. He took a sip of his cup and said, Grandpa, look, my dream has been repeating itself in a loop. From beginning to end, I was the only one who knew someone would attack us. You said, if I ask you for a secret code or something first, will you believe me and agree to my promise of the whole family's escape? Xian smiled and shook his head, this dream is actually based on your own will. In the dream, if you want us to believe it, even if the reason is absurd, we will believe it. After a moment of silence, Jing put down his chopsticks and asked with a solemn expression, Grandpa, what if this is not a dream? If there is really a strong group of people attacking us on the night of the 9th lunar month, what should I do? At first, Xian was still drinking wine with disdain. After catching a glimpse of his expression, he was stunned for a moment. Then he put down his glass, and his entire demeanor changed instantly. Do you know something? The voice is deep, like a stone of gold. People have also transformed from an ordinary fishing old man to an oppressive master of the illuminating underworld, seemingly with a hint of iron and blood. Jing stood up from the wooden stool and bowed solemnly, clasping his fists. Grandpa. The nightmare that my grandson talked about today is actually a strange thing that has happened to him recently. As mentioned in my dream earlier, my grandson, whether it's the 9th or 8th day of the Lunar New Year, will wake up on the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, which is the day when the sun and the sun alternate, as long as he dies. The last time I died was on the night of the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. This is already the 3rd time. My grandson has noticed the opponent's strength this time. There are 2 people in the west courtyard, one of whom can fight against Fubo and Yunhua alone, and even have the upper hand. My mother dealt with one person alone. Although I couldn't see her, my mother asked me to escape to your side, obviously she was not able to defeat her. There are also 2 people in the backyard, one fighting against you on the side of the Guanyin Tower, and the other suspected leader standing on the rockery to raid the formation. You have fallen behind a bit. There were also sounds of fighting between the main courtyard and the east courtyard, which the grandson could hear, but no one had an advantage. Since Jing spoke, Xian's eyes closed slightly as he listened, his fingers lightly tapping on the table. After Jing finished speaking, Xian's movements continued. Bang bang bang. The knocking sound made Jing's heart beat at this frequency, and his blood was uncontrollable, making him extremely uncomfortable. For a long time, when Jing felt chest tightness and wanted to vomit, Xian finally stopped his hand movements. So today you have revealed your secrets again, and you have opened 3 orifices in a row, in order to obtain some secret codes and other things from Master Xuan. Fortunately, after your next resurrection, I will allow you to escape with your family. Not bad. Guandi nodded. My grandson knows his past misdeeds. If he suddenly says that there will be a strong man attacking and the whole family needs to escape, no one in the mansion will believe him, so we can only think of this foolish solution. Xian nodded and said, I just carefully reviewed what you said today. Except for the bizarre incident of resurrection from death, the whole thing. Let's take Xianquan as a story, the whole story has no flaws, even the arrangement of Lao Fu and Lao Yun in the west courtyard is very reasonable. But, as I just said, even if your story is true, I cannot rashly agree to your absurd move. Hong Jing was already prepared for this, knowing that getting the old man to agree to the family's escape was not something that could be successful once or twice. However, he was not too disappointed. Instead, he said, "Grandpa, could you give me a code that you can believe as soon as you hear it? After all, after I die, I can't bring anything except memories. This matter is not urgent for now." After leaving a faint sentence, Hong Xian turned his head slightly and said, "Old fool." A figure suddenly appeared beside Hong Jing and bowed to Hong Xian, clasping his fists and saying, "Master." It is the old steward Fubo, who is also one of the 4 major offerings in the mansion. He is always beside the old man, and only the 4 of them would call him the old man, unlike other servants who call him the old man. Hong Xian drank all the wine in his glass and said, "Call the eldest, second, and third wife over, and you old guys should come too." "Yes, sir. This book has been renamed as, The Lord of Reincarnation, please be aware of it." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Different Responses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Different Responses Hongfu Backyard, Tingshui Pavilion. The dishes on the table have been cleaned up by Shunzi and replaced with a few cups of fragrant tea and some fruit plates. The old man Hong Xian sat on top with his eyes slightly closed, while Hong Jing stood beside him, his eyebrows and eyes lowered. The 4 worshippers of Fu, Yun, Fang, and Zheng are separated from each other in the later stages. The pavilion is completely silent. Li Serong arrived first and felt nervous at the sight of the atmosphere. She quickly asked, "Old man, but has Jing'er made you angry again?" Hong Jing saw that the old man had no intention of speaking, so he said, "Mother, Grandpa even called for uncle and uncle. Let's talk when they get together." After Li Serong sat down, she repeatedly asked with her eyes. Although Hong Jing's smile was comforting, she still felt a bit uneasy in her heart, only saying that Hong Jing had caused some trouble in the backyard. Not long after, Hong Feng and Hong Yan arrived at Tingshui Pavilion one after another. After the 2 of them exchanged a glance, Hong Feng asked in a condensed voice, "Old man, but what happened?" In the past, if there was something important, the old man would only call out to the 3 brothers to discuss together. But now in this Tingshui Pavilion, besides Li Serong representing the 3 houses, even 4 worshippers are present, which makes him have to be cautious. The appearance of Hong Jing made him somewhat puzzled. "Everyone sit down." Hong Xian knocked on the table and said calmly after the 2 of them sat down, "Jing'er, talk about everything from beginning to end." These words made the 3 of them look at each other, all suspecting that Hong Jing had caused something catastrophic. "Yes. Grandpa." Hong Jing bowed slightly. After bowing to the 3 people again, he finally spoke up about the mysterious man's attack and his resurrection, without even concealing the fact that his various orifices were partially opened or even a few were opened. At first, everyone was indifferent to the possibility of an enemy attack. When they heard that the incoming person was extremely strong and the mansion was unable to respond, the atmosphere in the hall instantly became tense. But when they arrived here, the 3 people on the table all had strange expressions, and Fu Bo and others standing behind Hong Xian were all twitching their lips, obviously not believing this outrageous thing. Li Su Rongrong kept winking at Hong Jing, wanting him to shut up. Finally, Hong Jing mentioned that his various orifices were half open, and after opening 3 orifices in a row today, Hong Feng couldn't resist and interjected, "Besides the innate 9 orifices, other orifices can also be half open." The attention of the crowd instantly focused on this matter. The old man ignored him and turned to look at Li Serong. How much did Jing'er get enlightened before, from the 3rd family? 22 is not right, he hasn't had an opening yet this year, it should be 21. Li Serong almost forgot that Hong Jing was about to finish this year. Hong Xian nodded and said, "That's not a big deal. I remember it used to take him about half an hour to open an orifices, but he spent an hour and a half with me this morning. He has indeed opened an orifices for 24 hours now." Li Surong didn't want to be impolite and dodged to grab Hong Jing's wrist to investigate. It really has 24 orifices. She couldn't help but freeze. Seeing her expression, the brothers Hong Feng and Hong Yan immediately knew that they had opened 3 orifices in a day. This also indicates that the fact that Hong Jing was born with half-opened orifices is highly likely to be true. Hong Feng was about to start scolding Hong Jing, but suddenly something came to his mind. After glancing at the old man, he silently picked up his teacup. Others didn't pay attention to his expression, and Hong Xian next to him pointed to Hong Jing for a moment without knowing what was good. Finally, he scolded, "You child, why haven't you said such a big thing?" Hong Jing touched his nose and smiled awkwardly, unable to explain. Li Surong's thoughts turned around and she knew the reason. Her face turned black and she raised her hand to pinch Hong Jing's ear. "Why didn't you say it earlier? You should have known that you had this talent back then. I even risked my life to send you to the 4 sects and 6 sections. Maybe your illness will also be cured." "Mother," Hong Jing pleaded for mercy and whispered, "everyone is here." Li Surong's voice suddenly stopped, and she quickly let go and bowed to the old man. Surong was momentarily excited and impolite. Hong Xian waved his hand and gestured for her to sit back before saying, "I'm not calling you here today to talk about this, but about Jinger's mention of a strong enemy attacking." Everyone suddenly remembered that Hong Jing had said another thing before, but just now he was attracted by the half-opening of the various orifices. A few people carefully recalled that the hall was temporarily quite quiet, with only the sound of the old man drinking tea. Hong Feng was the first to speak up and break the calm. "I just thought about it carefully. Apart from the outrageous words of resurrection from death, Jing Er's words are quite meticulous. It's not like he can make them up. To be on the safe side, it's better for the government to take it seriously. It only takes about 3 or 4 days. Not bad." Hong Ting nodded. Judging from what Jinger said, the newcomer may not be a local force in Qingyuan City. Let's investigate more in the next few days. If there is really something, we should be able to find something. However, to prevent the other party from being alarmed like he said, our people need to be very careful. Li Surong kept staring at Hong Jing. After Hong Jing finished speaking, she said, "Jinger, to be honest, is it a lie about someone attacking?" "No empty words," Hong Jing said decisively. Li Surong didn't notice his small movements when he was lying, so she turned to the old man and said, "We need to send some people outside the city to monitor and see if we can intercept the intelligence that the other party is spreading. Additionally, Surong wants to take Xuan to the backyard to stay for a few days." Hong Xian did not directly agree, but asked his 2 sons, "Is there anything else to add?" The 2 shook their heads. They had always been skeptical about this matter, and the preparations they had just mentioned were just in case. Upon seeing this, Hong Xian continued, "Old fool. Master. You've been working hard for a few days, but these days you've been watching outside the city. Come back to your mansion before noon on the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, be careful." "Yes, sir." The voices of the 4 were neat and uniform, but everyone in the room didn't take it seriously and had already become accustomed to it. Finally, Hong Xian looked at his 2 sons and said, "I'll leave the matter within the city to your brothers. Let the investigators be more cautious." "Yes. Also, this backyard is a bit cooler, everyone came here to be lively for a few days." "Haha," Hong Yan burst out laughing, "I can't help but have someone prepare." After everyone left, there were only 2 people left in the Tingshui pavilion, Hong Xian and Hong Jingye Sunday. "Grandpa, you have already prepared the other party better than us. Why don't you borrow some people from the Pang and Zhang families?" From these arrangements just now, Hong Jing could see that the old man believed his words quite well. Or rather, believe what he said about the enemy's attack, otherwise you should inform him of the secret code or the whole family's evacuation. Hong Xian glanced at him and said, "You never thought about why your mother and two uncles didn't mention borrowing people." Hong Jing shook his head. "What if these people were brought in by their family?" Hong Xian said calmly. "How could that be?" Hong Jing widened his eyes. "Auntie Zhang is a daughter of the Zhang family, and Auntie Er is a daughter of the Pang family. Our generation also has in-laws with both families. Our three families are so close, how could they possibly harm us?" Shu Hong Xian sneered, "There's nothing good or bad about this kind of thing. It's just a matter of mutual interests. Do you believe it or not? As long as you show some weakness, they will come over to test the truth. If you're seriously injured and want to die, they will dismember you." This. Hong Jing couldn't believe his grandfather's words. He has been very close to his peers in the Pang family since childhood due to his third brother Hong Min, especially the two brothers of Pang Chang. Although he couldn't understand the old man's words, he also knew that in such a time, the elders were unwilling to invite those two families to assist. This statement must not be false. Hong Jing couldn't help but remain silent. Be lenient with the enemy's expectations. Regardless of whether this matter has any connection with the Pang and Zhang families, we cannot take chances. After speaking, Hong Xian looked out the window, his eyes no longer sharp as usual, as if he was lost in memories. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Origin of Hong Xian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Origin of Hong Xian. Qingyuan City, Hongfu East Courtyard. How many days will you move to the backyard? Hong Min, who was practicing swordsmanship, was extremely surprised upon hearing this. In the past, the old man only wanted the whole family to have a meal together to liven up. Although their Hong mansion is large, they wouldn't have to move in for a few days. "Dad, can't we go to the backyard to have dinner with the old man every day and then go back to our respective yards?" This statement left Hong Ting slightly stunned. After discussing with his elder brother and siblings just now, he decided not to disclose the possibility of a strong enemy attacking in the next few days in order to avoid worrying younger generations. That's why he found this reason, but he didn't expect to overlook this issue. With a sudden change in his mind, he said to Hong Min, "It wasn't because of that kid Hong Jing that he was born with half-open orifices. Today, he even opened 3 orifices in a row." As soon as the old man was happy, he asked everyone to move to the backyard and have fun for a few days. After finishing speaking, he solemnly reminded, "Don't spread this matter recklessly, otherwise it may bring trouble to your younger brother Jing." "Ah?" Hong Min asked with his mouth wide open, a look of disbelief on his face. "Half open all the orifices? Did he even open 3 orifices in a row? Is it really fake?" The old man checked himself. Can there still be any falsehoods? After speaking, Hong Ting waved his hand impatiently. "All right, you go ahead first, and I'll go to the mansion." After his father left, Hong Min rushed to the backyard without saying a word. He wanted to immediately find Hong Jing and see what these half-opened orifices looked like. "Brother Jing, are you really half-open? Did you even open 3 orifices today?" "Ah." Hong Jing was extremely surprised. "Third brother, who did you listen to?" Hong Min pursed his lips and said, "Are you still hiding from your third brother? I heard that the old man asked us all to move to the backyard today because of this matter with you. Hurry up and talk about it. What does it feel like to have our orifices half open?" Hong Jing immediately realized that third brother was not aware of the possibility of a strong enemy attacking. With a little thought, he understood second uncle's meaning and immediately smiled. "I don't feel much either, it's just that after opening an orifices, I feel like I have more energy to continue, but you know my problem, third brother. This impulse has been hurting me for a long time today." Hong Min took a cold breath and said, "Isn't it not long before you can catch up with me?" Hong Jing opened his mouth, intending to say that he was going to work hard to cultivate. Thinking about the night raid that involved the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, he changed his mind and said, "You know my condition, how could I possibly catch up with you?" Hong Min shook his head and said, "You don't understand. In the past, your family didn't know about your talent, and in the future, they might force you to become enlightened. Moreover, your problem may be resolved when you reach the blood exchange stage, and the enlightenment stage will only be more painful." "Haha, then I'll borrow your auspicious words. Let's go, third brother. You also need to break through in the next few days. Coming to the backyard may delay your cultivation. You've made the old man so happy about this matter. Why bother me with the matter of foot restriction? It doesn't matter if I break through a few days later." As the two of them walked away, a figure slowly walked out from behind the nearby rockery. Probably because there are many people and excitement, so time passes quickly. At noon on the 8th day of the lunar month, Fubo and his 4 companions returned to their mansion. They didn't intercept any news, and upon reflection, if they had indeed intercepted the news, they probably wouldn't have delayed their return to the mansion until now. At dinner, the elders replaced their wine cups with clear water, and Hong Jing did the same. Like the previous 2 days, a noisy meal didn't end until the hour of Su. After arranging for good hands, the old man alone brought Hong Jing to the temple. The Hong family only settled here after the old man came to Qingyuan City. There are not many plaques enshrined in the ancestral hall, only 4 or 5 memorial tablets. Among them, Hong Jing is slightly familiar with only the second uncle. Second uncle, also known as Hong Shuluo, travels abroad for many years and only returns to Qingyuan once every few years. Last month, he suddenly suffered a serious injury and returned to his residence. He passed away shortly after, and it is unknown who his enemy is. Hong Jing hung incense on the pillar, then kowtowed and knelt before leaving the room. The old man had already sat down at the stone table outside. The stone table is carved with 19 vertical and horizontal lines, and at this time, 2 cans of chess pieces are already placed on it. Hong Jing has a deep memory of this stone table, and upon seeing this scene, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. "Grandpa, if there's still a strong enemy attacking tonight, don't play chess, right?" The old man didn't speak, just knocked on the table. Hong Jing sat down across from him with a drooping face, listless, and dropped a white seed on the star position. "Pa, Blackie posted it out of common sense." Hong Jing's entire face suddenly twitched, as if recalling something extremely painful. He muttered, "I knew it was like this again." When he was young, he was influenced by his father and enjoyed playing chess. His talent in this area was also good, and he could be considered an invincible player among his peers in the mansion. Although we may lose more and win less when playing chess with our elders, we have never been defeated by our mentality. Until the year before last when he committed a crime and was pulled down by the old man for 3 days, he never touched a chess piece again. The old man's chess style is extremely unique, and his moves are very fast. Every time Hong Jing's white moves just fall, his black moves will stick to it, and he enters a close combat at the beginning. And Hong Jing is accustomed to having a good layout first, carefully calculating the middle ground, accumulating small momentum to build strength, and finally using the momentum to dominate others. When encountering the unreasonable playing style of the old man, the entire game will be in a state of strangulation, and he will have to calculate from the beginning to the end, which is extremely exhausting. He finds it difficult to distinguish between his own strengths and weaknesses at the end of each official year. Even if he ultimately wins, he doesn't know how he won. Winning somewhere is like being beaten up, mentally exhausted. "Pop," after sticking another black dot, the old man said calmly, "Don't be awkward. The chess game is like a battle, just to make the opponent uncomfortable. Then you don't have to torture your grandson like this, do you?" Hong Jing gave up the corner here and flew to the diagonal star position. The old man followed with a snap. "Hong Jing." He immediately wanted to admit defeat. Not anymore, anyway, the old man doesn't remember after he dies. He only picked up a few white seeds when Hong Xian said with a smile, if you dare to throw in the seeds, no matter whether someone comes or not, you won't want to know my secret. No, it's not. As soon as Hong Jing started speaking, he was interrupted by the old man. If those strong enemies you mentioned don't come tonight, you can accompany me down until tomorrow. If they don't come tomorrow, you can go down until the day after tomorrow, until they come. What if you come today or tomorrow? Hong Jing blurted out. It seems that the old man really has a secret to hand over to him. If the person who comes here is not as powerful as you said, then it's up to you to exchange blood. Speaking of this, Hong Xian put away his smile and continued, if it's really like what you said, it means all your words are true. If I give you my secret, it can also bring a glimmer of vitality to our Hong family. Hong Jing suddenly felt a slight heat in his eyes and lowered his head to rest. Pa, big fly. Hong Xian didn't even think about it, so he pasted it again. Pop, pop, pop. Hong Jing forced himself to stop calculating and engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the old man this time. The two of them placed their pieces very quickly, and the crisp sound of the pieces hitting the stone table was extremely rhythmic. 1 round, 2 rounds, because they all start by hanging, a game ends very quickly. Halfway through the hour of high, Hong Jing was already sweating profusely. He couldn't remember how many games had been played that night, only knowing that he had suffered a disastrous loss and had expended a great deal of energy. Although he forces himself not to calculate, whenever there is a clear disadvantage, he cannot help but return to his old job. Mechanically preparing to start the game again, the old man suddenly threw several black pieces onto the chessboard. I lost. As soon as the words fell, there was a commotion of fighting from the other side of the Guanyin Tower. Immediately, Fu Bo's voice came, in the early days of the Ming dynasty, with 45 orifices or more, at least intermediate-level martial arts skills in the Xian level. Follow me. Hong Xian did not go out to support, but stood up and walked towards the temple. At this moment, Yun Bo's voice came, we're the same here. Hong Jing stood up and followed, occasionally looking back. Do your job well. Hong Xian didn't look back and stepped up. The voices of Hong Feng and others came from outside, all shouting about the opponent's cultivation and martial arts level. Hong Jing only then realized that the old man had arranged things so meticulously. Silently record the opponent's cultivation, enlightenment, and martial arts level 1 by 1, in preparation for the next resurrection. Get closer and support each other. Uncle Hongfeng's voice came again, obviously unable to support him. The younger generation who were awakened also became panicked, and scattered sounds could be heard in the backyard. Hong Jing also seemed to hear Xiao shouting, Mother. Click. Hong Jingwen looked over and saw the old man's hand pulling away from the incense burner on the altar. A tiny dark grid popped up under the altar. Hong Jing raised his hand to catch what the old man had flown over. Get cold. Then he saw the old man pull out an iron gun from the nearby weapon rack, raise his hand to gently stroke it, and his whole aura changed, with an extremely strong smell of blood spreading out. Hong Jing was suddenly shocked. He had never thought that the old man actually used a gun. In a moment of confusion, the old man had already walked out with his gun, and his voice came from the entrance of the temple. Remember, I come from the army of King Yu, and I am the front Sima under the command of the fire character camp's Pingla colonel. End of this chapter.